Yes, this is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Yet once again, we come right there where you are, into your home, your house, your phone, your computer, wherever you are. We come to you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. I want to thank you for tuning in to One Accord Television. This is your television. And as we come to you through Open Talk, I want to say this is your presenter and your pastor, you and your friend, Bishop Mark Karaoke, coming to you with Open Talk. Open up your heart that you may talk. Remember, Open Talk is founded on the Word of God. That is our foundation. Anything outside which is not in line with the Word of God does not come through Open Talk. And we have been having very special guests coming to be with us, and from them we glean the nuggets. We glean the nuggets that they give to us, and with an intention of either learning something or receiving a correction, receiving a direction, receiving a rebuke or a reproof, some help, some wisdom, so that we can continue in life. And I want you to know, even tonight, you're in for a good time, for I have a very, very important couple that has come to be with us, and this is none other than Charles and Jeniffer Mathenge. And there are members of the House of Bread and Majestic City, and we are seeing God using them. They are also a business couple, and the Lord is blessing them. So please let us sit down, relax, pick your pen and your book, and take notes if you can. May the Lord richly bless you. Yes, General Mathenge, that's what they call you.
Yes, that's
Would you like to say Jambo to our viewers?
Jambo, my name is General Mathenge, or Charles Mathenge. Thank you, Bishop, for the opportunity to visit Open Talk, where you talk, I talk, and we hear one another.
Yeah, we talk, you talk, I talk, or we hear one another.
Definitely. Thank you.
Jeniffer, so you can say Jambo to our viewers.
Yes. Hello, Jambo, our viewers. We are here with our father, Bishop Mark Karaoke. Karibuni sana.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I think it's my joy to welcome you to the show tonight, and to tell you we are honored to have you with us, and just to fellowship. If you talk, why you talk, why you talk, and we hear one another, and we move on. So Charles, tell me, where were you born?
I was born in Lumuruti, Laikipia district. That is the former Rift Valley province. That's where I was born and raised as well. Okay. Yes.
Wow. And Jeniffer, where were you also born in Lumuruti?
I was born in Nembu. Nembu is in Katodo South in Kiabu County.
On Nebu? Yeah. Or Embu?
Nembu.
Oh, Nebu.
Nebu.
I used to hear Nebu someplace. Okay, that's where you come from?
Yes.
Okay. And how was your family? Did you come from a polygamous family or a monogamous family? How many are you in your family?
I was born in a family of 6 girls. The 6th born.
You are the 6th girl?
Yeah.
In the family?
Yeah.
And all of you are girls?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And all of you are married, or some are not married? Are they in school? Or you are the last born?
Yeah. I was the last born. We are all married. Yeah.
What did your parents do?
Our father was employed in a farm as a driver, and my mother was a businesswoman.
What business did she do?
She used to sell mandizi and avocados to Githurai.
Okay. Yes, Charles Mathenge. What kind of family did you come from?
I came from a pastor's family.
A pastor's family?
We were born 5. quite opposite of my dear wife, because we were born 5 brothers
Oh.
with no sister. And I happened to be the 3rd born. So my father was a pastor, and my mother was a pastor's wife. And we majored in pastoralism in Laikipia. We are more of pastoralists, leave alone being pastor, pastoralism, and farming.
Allah.
Yeah.
Mulilima nini?
We used to do horticulture, things to do with tomatoes, onions, cabbages, sukuma wiki, because we used to do irrigation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Allah.
Yes.
Kwa hivyo wewe wakati watoto wanaitwa watoto pastors kids na watu wa kukula sadaka, wewe mlikula vitunguu kwanza alafu ndio sadaka, ama sadaka haiko inapatikana wakati huo?
I think it was a cocktail. It was a cocktail of everything, because being a pastor's kid, whether there was sadaka or not, the major thing or the bigger picture was how ni watu wa sadaka. So even if maybe the dad went there and went out of his way and got you a shoe or a good shirt, maybe when you're playing out there you would hear some words here and there. Hiyo ni ile ya sadaka yetu. So we are used to that. Yes.
You know, that's a prejudice of the highest degree.
Definitely it is.
Because they don't call the police kids watoto wa polisi. They don't call watoto wa nini wa makanga, watoto wa makanga, lakini watoto wa pastor ndio wanaitwa pastors kids.
Yeah.
Which is very, very, very unfortunate. What challenges were there? Challenges that you can look back and say you faced as a pastor's kid?
Not necessarily as a pastor's kid, but I think I have encountered quite a number of challenges as I grew up. I won't connect them to being a pastor's kid. Maybe I'll connect them to destiny, to my destiny as I grew up, because I was brought up from quite a humble family, despite the fact that my father was a pastor. He was a village pastor in the bushes of Laikipia. And in most cases you would find that he had to support his members more than how he supported them.
Or more than the members supported?
More than the members supported him.
Kwa sauti ndio watu wa magazeti wasikie hiyo. Wajua hata pastor wanasupporting.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that as we grew up, my father had to do a lot to the members, sometimes more than the members did to him. Because I remember at one time he opened a small kiosk, and it was not small because it did well. And everybody from the village would come to buy from our shop. And we had this challenge because maybe you'll find that at evening, that is the time someone is sending the kid, go to pastor's shop, tell him to give you unga and this and this and this. We had at least a book we used to write, those who borrow. And you'll find that maybe the book, in fact, it went to a point, it was filled with people who are borrowing. And when you come to maybe demanding the money, you being a pastor, and maybe he will come with other problems, you'll have to dig again into the pocket instead of getting the money that they had borrowed. So I think that is one of the challenges that I saw my father experience, to an extent of closing down the business. Oh. It never went for long because of those. That is one of the challenges that we faced. Personally, as a kid, I grew up I started my school, my early school life with great expectations and optimism because I got a lot of encouragement or inspiration, maybe knowingly or unknowingly from my parents, because as I was 3 years, 4 years kid, there was this nickname that they had given me. They used to call me Munene Waebu.
Munene?
Waebu. That was the nickname that they gave me. And it was derived from a brother to my dad, who was somebody senior in the government during those days. And it happened when I was born. He was in charge of Embu province. So whenever they wanted to refer to me, they would call me Munene Waebu. And this thing really had an impact in me, because at this very tiny age, I had this mentality and believed that I was great, even if nothing around me appeared to be great. But I believed and I felt, yeah, I'm the great man. As I went to school, I had still this great inspiration from the same brother to my dad, whom I was named after, because I would see some photos he had taken in United States, where he had gone for further studies. So I derived a lot of inspiration from this man, even though we didn't have any connection, but the fact that I bore his name, and my parents always called me Munene, Munene, so I had this feeling that I was great. So I went to school knowing that I'm great and I will be great. And my dad will tell me, wewe soma, ukue mkubwa, ukue mtu mkubwa. Same to my mother. So I believed that the key to greatness was in education. I did put a lot of effort in my classwork, in my studies, and I was a bright boy, I can say. Maybe more because of the inspiration from this brother to my dad. I went on with my primary school education. I was performing well. I was one of the topmost, if not number one, I could be number 2, number 3, maybe out of around 50 children. So I was doing well. And my great expectation was that I would finish primary school, join high school, go to university, and end up in America like this brother to my dad, whom I had seen from my early childhood. So I pushed on with education up to class 8, when I did my KCPE. And after sitting my KCPE, I performed well, but I got some discouraging news from my dad, because the fact was he was not able to take me to high school, despite the fact that I had a lot of expectations and dreams that to be great, I will have to go to high school, go to university, and now there comes a time I have done my KCPE, and the information that I'm getting from my dad is that I will not make it to high school. Not because I didn't have the grades or the marks that would allow me, but simply because he didn't have money to take me to school. This was not good to me.
So had your elder brothers gone to high school? Or they didn't do very well in school?
2 of them, I told you I'm the third born.
Yes.
So 2 of them were already in high school. And my dad was struggling with their school fees. So I had to And it happened during that time, my dad had a lot of cattle and goats. And these bandit things in Laikipia didn't start yesterday. So bandits had came and they took everything. We had over 100 goats and cattle. They had stolen everything. They were almost to kill my dad. So my dad remains with very minimal options because already we have 2 of my brothers in high school. The elder one had to drop. The one that I am after was lucky enough because he made it to O level. But myself at this time, my dad was not able to help me join high school. And when this happened, I was quite discouraged because my dad had laid a very firm foundation of trusting in God. And he taught us that our God is a provider. So whenever we were in a fix or whenever we needed anything and we went to him and he didn't have, he will tell us we are going to ask God and God will supply. And this, we grew with this understanding that even if our dad is in a position that he doesn't have what he wants, if he asks God, God will give him. So when he told me that he don't have money to take me to high school, I expected that he would go to God and ask God to give him money as he had done all this time. So when it came, the reality dawned that I will not make it to high school, I was very bitter. I became a very bitter young man, not necessarily with my dad, but I became very bitter with the God of my dad and the profession or the calling of my dad. Because I would ask myself, how comes this God cannot be able to give my dad just some money to take me to school? So I hated even anything to do with pastor, and I hated this God, and I said I would not like to be associated with this God who is very mean. That was my childhood thinking. The Bible says when I was a kid, I thought like a kid, and I did like a kid. Remember, I'm around 15 years by then. So I said I would not like to be associated with this God. And it was quite a period of discouragement after failing to go to high school. Yes. Yes,
Jennifer. So, where did you grow up? Where did you go to school?
I grew up in Nembu village, there in Gatudu South. That is where I started my primary school, in Nembu Primary School. Then, after my KCP, I went to Nembu High School. And from there I came to Nairobi after my KCSE.
Okay. And where did you meet? Where did you guys meet? And how did you meet?
We met here in Nairobi. I was working in a hotel, and I don't know whether I will go back to Nyahururu than the way I came to Nairobi, so that we can... okay. I think I had reached where I failed to make it.
You didn't go to high school?
I didn't go make it to high school. And after being quite very angry with God, I had another thought. I think I need to research and understand. Maybe my dad must have asked the wrong God, or must have asked in the wrong way. At this time, I had reached to a point I could preach in our local church. So I had some deep roots in faith. So when I failed to go to high school, the only book that was in our house was the Bible. So with a lot of anger, I think it is the holy anger that you normally talk about. With a lot of anger, I decided I'm going to study, I'm going to read this book from Genesis to Revelation. Number one, I had a passion to study, and I'm not furthering my study. Number two, I wanted to know about this God, why he failed to supply my needs. So I read the book from Genesis to Revelation. It took some time. And during this time, because now I'm home, others has gone to high school. During this time, as I was searching to understand God and to know God more through reading the Bible, I heard the voice of God. God spoke to me. It was in a very clear language that I understood and I heard. And even today, when I think of that, I hear as if it is repeating itself. Because after taking quite a period of time studying the Word of God, I heard this voice during my frustrations, which said, "You have not gone to high school, but I have chosen you." That was the voice that spoke to me. You have not gone to high school, but I have chosen you. You will live like the educated people live. Whatever educated people do, you will do. And wherever educated people go, you will go. This was the voice that was very clear to me at that tender age. And when I heard this voice, I was very, 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 very excited. And I had come across a brochure from my dad's book, because he was a pastor and he used to visit pastors' meeting here in Nairobi. And I had come across a brochure which was from a certain Bible college in United States. So when I heard this voice and the excitement that, oh, God has not forgotten me, the God that I've been studying about has not forgotten me, I wrote a letter to the Bible school expressing my interest to join the Bible school. By then I was around 16 or 17 years there, I think 16 years. And sure enough, I waited for some months, and the letter I received back a reply from the Bible college. When I received this reply from the Bible college, I was very excited, because I realized now my God has come. Surely God had not forsaken me. He has come, because as he had said that I will live like educated people, and whatever educated people do, I will do. Now God has come. So I was excited. Even I didn't have that courage to open this letter, because in my expectations and in what I thought this letter, the letter that I'm receiving from the college, comes with an air ticket and everything. So back in my mind, I was saying, you just wait, you will see this boy who failed to go to high school going to United States. Remember the dreams and connection of my father's brother. So when I opened this letter, it was not good as I expected, because it didn't have the air ticket. I didn't know to go to United States is a process. You need to have a visa, passport, all these things. So I expected the letter will come with that air ticket. I'll just come to Nairobi and fly to United States. So when this letter from the Bible college didn't come with what I was expecting, I felt again very frustrated. Later, I came to Nairobi.
Okay.
To start life afresh after quite a period of turbulence. I came to Nairobi back in 2005, November, and I started working in a hotel. Back in Nyahururu, I had made a friend who was my client. And sometimes it's good to do well wherever you are. Anytime you are relating with people, no matter the profession that you are in, anytime somebody comes close, how you handle that person maybe may determine your blessing tomorrow. Because service is a seed, and no matter, even if you forget the seed under the soil, it can't stop growing. So I came to Nairobi courtesy of a client I used to serve in back then in 2001 in Nyahururu, who happened to have opened a restaurant here. And he remembered this boy who was very jovial, who used to serve him well. And when he thought of somebody who would work well for him, he thought of me. So he sought me and he found me. So I came to Nairobi back in 2005, and he handed me the restaurant to manage for him. He went back to Nyeri. So that's where I was working. And I did work for quite some time. Your question was where we met. You asked me where we met. So that's where I'm coming from.
Oh, you met in that hotel?
Karaha. That's where we are headed.
Karaha. Mos.
Ndio hiyo sasa. So as I was working there, this girl came. I think she was living with a cousin. She had finished school and she had come to Nairobi, and the cousin was looking for something for her to do. And this cousin used to be a friend of mine and a client as well. So she landed a job there. And I remember the day she came, we were together with my boss. And my boss made a joke, which I think I never took it seriously, or it just passed through my ears. He said, unaona huyu amekuja, labda hapa kuna mtu amepata bibi. And it went like that. So we continued in working. It was just kazi ya kukuwa na mambo mengine. In fact, she knew I was in a relationship, because by then I was in a relationship, but it's with somebody who was out of the country. But she would hear maybe that person call, we talk. So to an extent, maybe almost everyone knew I had a girlfriend, a blood, who we had some relationship. So she knew of it. So she was nowhere in the equation. But I must say that our words are very powerful. The words that we speak, they are very powerful and effective. Just as in the beginning I told you, the words that my parents spoke about greatness created greatness in me, even if there was nothing around me that appeared great. Now, this cousin of hers was a friend of mine, and I think based on the words my boss talked about her when she came, because he said, hapa labda kuna mtu amepata bibi. Now, whenever he would come to the restaurant, I would call him, hey Muthoniwa, how are you Muthoniwa? I used to call him Muthoniwa, jokingly, without any thought or any attachment with her. So we continued working up to a point when that other relationship had almost come to a climax. I was ready to settle in marriage. So it had almost come to a climax, and we were now to move it to the next level of how we would make it as a husband and wife. But hapo katikati, things never worked. Things fell apart. And when they fell apart, I was quite discouraged and heartbroken. And I just turned. I think sometimes the solution to our problem are just around where we are. So that's when I connected to her. And I told her, I tried some advances to her, of which she was not very welcoming. Number one, I was almost her boss because I was the one who was running the restaurant when the boss was not around. And number two, she knew that I was in a relationship. So my bid to try to advance were not very welcome. So that's where we met.
So Josephine, you have finished Form 4. What happened? How did you end up in Nairobi?
After finishing my Form 4, I came to live with my cousin. My cousin was a male, but he had a wife. Now we were living 3 of us. After there, that is when he gotten me a job to the restaurant he was working. After there, he used to call me Mutoniwa, but I knew he was joking kwa sababu nilijua alikuwa na girlfriend wa abroad. Hata nilikuwa najua jina yake Mary. Sasa hata ningesikia wakisema hapo Mudhoniwa, me I could not take it serious. After there, in 2007, after elections, we broke for Christmas. Yeah, we broke for Christmas, and before we come back in January, akanipigia simu, akaniambia nataka tufugue job na sasa nataka kwanza tufanye cleaning ndio watu sasa wakikuja wote tukue hoteli ikue iko set. Sami nikakuja, it was on a Saturday. Naye ndiye alikuwa ametoka kwa ushago, so nimetoka home na yeye amekuja, tukapatana hapa town. Tukaenda kwa hoteli. That is where he proposed to me. Yeah.
Ukamwambiaje?
Kwanza nilimwambia hapana. Juu hakuwa ameniambia kwanza wame break na yule mwingine.
Ala. Okay. So sasa mshapatana, mko na watoto wangapi?
We have 2 wonderful kids with Jeniffer. One is our daughter, and the other one is our son. Our daughter is named Stacy Waidera, and our son is named Eddie Mathenge. So those are all our kids that we have with Jeniffer. Yeah.
So wakati ambapo amepropose mlisema ndio sasa tushaoana, hiyo tunaanza maisha mapya, ama mlipanga? After how long were you get married?
Kwanza mimi sikuichukulia serious juu niliona kama anacheza tu. Alafu sasa vile niliona ako serious ndio nikakubali, but ili remain kuwa siri. Juu hata wenye tulikuwa tunawaka na wao hawakuwahi jua kuna kitu inaendelea. Sasa siku moja nimeenda kumtembelea. Nilimwacha town, alikuwa anaenda gym after job. Na mimi sasa nikatagulia kuenda. Alikuwa naishi Isili na mimi nilikuwa naishi na kazini yangu Kariobagi. Sasa after job nilikuwa nataka niende huko nifanye vitu kadhaa alafu nitoke niende home. Sasa kwenye nilishukishwa na mat, nikitembea tu hivyo nikapatana na one of my colleagues akaniuliza, na yeye tulikuwa tunaongea sana na yeye, na nilikuwa namwambia hata sijui isili, hata sijawahi kanyaga. Sasa ndio akaniuliza, we unaenda wapi? Kamwambia hata ni kazini yangu akona hapa hivyo chini, nampelekea hizi vitu alafu nitoke niende. So huyu colleague venye tu aliniona alijua tu huyu, I think kuna vitu alirudisha nyuma, akaona hao watu wanakuaga pamoja. Sasa alinifuata na mimi nikajua amenifuata nyuma. Sasa nilienda tu, nimepita alikuwa anaishi kwa flat iko tu kwa barabara. Sasa nilienda nikajifanya hata sijui huko. Hata sijui huko, nikapita tu alafu nikaona huko hata naweza potea. Kugeuka tu hivi napata huyu koligi wangu amenifuata. Sasa hata nikamwambia hata nilikuwa nimekuja kutembelea Charles, kuna vitu nataka nimdropie huko alafu nitoke. That is what I did. Nika drop vitu zenye nilikuwa nazo alafu nikaenda nikarudi kwenye nilikuwa naishi. Na sasa huyu colleague alikuwa najua huyu hakuagi hiyo time, anaendaga gym. Sasa following day ndio nikampigia simu nikamwambia sasa hata hatujifichi tena. Tushajulikana. Ndio sasa following day nikienda job, sasa nilikuwa naona kila mtu ananiangalia, nikajua sasa tukaamua hata hatufichi tena. Na ikakuwa ni hivyo, sasa hatufichi na ikakuwa sasa iko open. Mpaka ikafika mahali akaambia boss, sasa huyu ndiye nataka kuoa. Boss kwanza alishtuka akamuuliza, umehakikisha ako na kitambulisho? Umehakikisha ako na kitambulisho? Akamwambia ako sawa. Haya, na maisha ikaanza hapo.
Okay. Lakini sasa hamuishi Kariobangi tena? Ama Isili?
Hapana.
So I know time zetu zimesonga. So what do you do now?
I'm in business. Maybe if we had time I would explain the journey towards the business I'm doing, because it has got a lot of connection and my coming in connection with you.
Our time is quite squeezed, so
okay. Because after some time the hotel here, the owner of the hotel sold out the hotel, and we remained without anything to do. And by then I had purpose to go to do KCSE. I had purpose that I would go back to school. That is the time I have found you. Because despite coming to Nairobi year 2002 and 5, I went to several churches, but I felt no. There was this period I stayed at home over 1 year without going to church, up to a time when I was walking close here and I saw a banner with Bishop Mark Kariuki. I asked those soldiers, is Bishop Mark having a conference here? They told me no, he has got a church down there. You just go and upstairs you'll find the place. So that's how I came upstairs and I stayed behind there. Na wakati nilikaa pale, I felt nimefika nyumbani. I felt that relief as the way you feel when you go home after work. So I went back. By then we were together. So I went back to her and told her, now tumepata kanisa. Ilienda kanisa kwa Bishop Mark. She was very excited. So that's how I connected with you. After connecting with you, you were talking about going back to school. I had tried when I was in the hotel. I had bought Form 1 and Form 2 books, and I didn't make to book the examination because I had very limited time. So when I came here, and you insisted very much on going back to school, I decided I'm going to book the examination. But then I didn't know you. I had not stayed long. I think it was about 1 month or 2 months, early 2008. So I went on and booked KCSE examination. I didn't know the subject to do. So I consulted the Reverend Minor, DC Nyaururu. He was a teacher at a high school there. He gave me the subjects that I should do. So I came back, bought Form 3 and Form 4 books. And that year, despite the fact that the hotel business was closed, now I was doing Mjengo, Juakari. I'm coming to where my business started. I took advantage of not being at the restaurant and not being active at work to do studies. So I was able to cover from Form 1 to Form 4 within a very short time, that year 2008. And by November I had booked the KCSE examination. So this is the time now. I've now been inducted into service. Someone is following up me very much because they want me to be in service, but I'm running away. And sure enough, I sat for KCSE on November. And I can say my connection with you, or that's where I started seeing, and following this man has got an impact in my life. Because I sat for KCSE, I did study only 1 year, but I was able to come out with good grades. There was this time you read of somebody who sat for KCSE after 13 years, because I never wrote my name, but it was me. I was able to get a B in English. I was able to get a B in Christian religious education. I was able to get a C in business studies. I did good. I did good, having done study for 1 year. Then after now I did my KCSE. I rediverted my energy into business. That's when I decided to register a company to do with construction. I registered a company called Empire Glassworks, and I started doing glass and aluminium business. It was not an easy start. It was not an easy journey, because number one, I registered a company and I didn't have money. So I didn't start my business with capital. I started my business with passion and determination. Through passion and determination, I was able to walk around with the little coins I would get from Mjengo now to look for business for my company. And after being persistent for some time, it started yielding fruits. And I started getting small businesses, small businesses, up to now when I can say I'm doing well. One thing I can confirm is that when I came to you, the only important document I had, it is an ID card. That's the only valuable document I had. But the first year, I got my O-level certificate. I sat for O-level certificate, so I'm no longer a Class 8 dropout. I was able to get an O-level certificate. I did as a private candidate here at YMCA, Shauri Moyo. After that, I went for a passport. After that, I went for a driving license. After that, God blessed me with a car. I got a logbook. After that, God blessed me with a land here in Nairobi. I got a title deed. So following you has yielded a lot of positive impact in my life, and even in my ministry life. I remember this time when you were ordaining bishops at Roiro. I was serving you with one of my colleagues, and you happened that day you were using your ceremonial robe. And the time you came from the car, you asked for it because you are in a suit, but when you went to the party, you asked for it. So I went to the car, took the robe and brought you. Then you put it on and you proceeded with anointing the bishops and up to evening. Now when you finished in the evening, you removed your robe and you put back your suit and you gave me the robe to take it back to the car. As I was taking it, I had a voice or a revelation, and I looked at the robe. I said, I observed the time I took the robe to you in the morning, it was clean. It didn't have any stain. But now as I'm taking it back to the car, it had stains. But there were stains of oil and anointing. And I spoke with my colleague, he's a witness. I spoke to that robe. And I said, I touched that robe before I put it back at the back seat. I said, if at all God, there is any single of anointing left in this robe, let it touch my life. Let it transform my life. Let it impact my life. I knew Bishop came to ordain bishops, but I can see some drops of oil on this robe. I pray that they will touch my life. And sure enough, that was the genesis of my anointing. That was the genesis of my ability to speak, because I could not speak even before 2 or 3 people. But nowadays I'm able to stand and express myself and speak. So apart from connecting with you, being a blessing in business, I have 2 companies. I have the Empire Grassworks, which I deal with construction work. I have another registered company in the Republic of Kenya, Arid Protection Services, dealing with security services. I'm also an author, and soon I'm getting into public speaking.
Wow.
Yes.
Had you ever worked with the glass before, or this was just the beginning?
I saw how they were doing when I was doing mjengo, kazi ya mjengo, because when the hotel collapsed, I had no option but to know how to sustain my new wife. By then even she didn't have a kid, but she knew me as a big man in the hotel. Now we have come together, everything has come down, so I have to fix things.
Wow.
I had to go to mjengo, so when I think I had to choose what can I do in construction field, and that is where I settled. And when I settled in that line.
Tell us a little bit about your book.
Oh.
We have a few seconds.
Good. This is a product of service. I just talk about the ultimate reward of a servant. This book is a product of my service life. When God called me and connected me to you. I remember this day when you were launching a book at KICC, the first quarter book. At that time I was doing my examination, I was doing mjengo work, and my wife was pregnant, almost at her last days. So this day, 31st November, I came from mjengo so that I could change and put on my wonderful brown suit, which I used to serve. It was my Sunday best, my wonderful brown suit. So I came back to Isli, and I found my wife in some discomfort. And I took her to the nearby clinic, and when we went there, the physician told me, rush her to the nearest hospital as quickly as possible. Now I was coming to prepare so that I can go to KICC. I found my wife in another state. So I rushed her to Pumwani. That was the nearest and affordable facility for me. So I took her there, and when she was there, she got admitted. Now when we were in the process of admission and all this, she knew I was coming so that I could go for the book launch. Now I was in a dilemma. Do I stay at Pumwani and wait for the delivery, or do I go to serve as I had committed myself to serve? And I decided I will go to serve. And I told her. She told me, it's okay, since I'm in hospital and I have been admitted, you just go, you will come and see me after service. I went to KICC in my good suit and I served. By then even I don't think you knew me well, because I really avoided you. I really made effort to avoid you. I was serving you from a distance. So I don't think you had known me, though I had served for around over 4 months by then. So we went, we launched the book, and in the process of launching the book, around 6:30, she called me from the hospital, and she told me, "Hey, mami wa nyuneoka." I was excited, and I didn't know whether to leave the service and go to hospital or what to do. But I said no. I came to serve. So I served until the launch was over. Then I told Ben, that is when I told Ben, I left my wife in hospital, so I want to go, and I've heard she has delivered. I want to go and check her. So Ben told me it's okay. That's when I went and found our daughter. My firstborn daughter was born the same day you launched the book.
Okay.
And I didn't know that going to KICC was not mainly for me to serve. God wanted to see the step that I can take, whether I will remain and serve my wife or I will serve my calling. Because in serving my calling, there was a book. When I came to serve you as you launched your book, I tapped the anointing of book writing. And I wrote this book in a very easy way, and some other books are on the way coming. So I got this book as a manifestation of a reward of service. And that's why I called it the ultimate reward of servant. Wow. Yes.
Well, thank you so very much. Well, viewers, thank you so much. We really appreciate. Want to thank Charles and Jeniffer Mathenge. Thank you for being with us tonight. May the Lord richly bless you. There's a very touching story, and pray that your book will sell. So if you would be interested in getting the ultimate reward of serving, you can contact that number. General Mathenge is right there on the screen, and you'll be able to get that book. Otherwise, for me, it's ciao, ciao. This is open talk. You talk, I talk, or we hear one another. I hope you have gotten something, and we will appreciate if you can tell us what you have gotten from tonight's open talk. May the Lord richly bless you. We'll see you again this coming Wednesday. As for now, it's your pastor and your friend for a long time, Bishop Mark Kariuki, coming to you through open talk. God bless you.